Perfect. Okay, so we're recording. This is for the February 27th session. And I posted last week's 2 recordings in the space in the wiki. Now I'm just going to screen share just for a sec, just to show people where the okay, so this is the creative writing classroom in PowerSchool, and the agenda lives in the group wiki space, which I hope people don't have a hard time finding it. And it sits here under the excuse me, the notes. So, oops. Okay, so were people able to find it? So that's a head shake. So that's a nod yes for Olivia. And how about you, Peyton?
Yeah, I just opened it now.
Okay. And Trinity, were you able to find it?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'll try to do is get this posted at least a day before. I mean, honestly, for me, like, I'm deliberately trying to let the learners shape the direction this takes. So I don't want to overly prescribe things. So I'm really going to be open to what learners want to do. And so, looking through the agenda, okay, there's just a couple little, there's some housekeeping items. And so Trinity, I see your name is here. There's something called the learner agreements, the learner engagement agreements. And they're actually, okay, let me see where they would live. Okay, they're actually in the meet and greet portion of the course. So this is, so Trinity, can you, like, this is what I always do once I'm inside, if I'm in the group wiki and I want to get out of it, I just click on pages and it brings me back to the more or less homepage of the course. And then, so the learner engagement agreements you need to fill in. It's under the meet and greet.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay, that's perfect. All right, so now I have to, so for me to get back into the agenda, let's go back into here. Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to kind of point out that I've actually moved some things around inside the group wiki, because I was finding that, like, for example, you'll see here on the left, I've actually created a page for the writing prompts, because they were kind of hidden in other spots. And I'm just hoping, I think it makes more sense to have them as a separate page. And what I'm calling the lessons, and I put that in quotation marks, is going to sit inside Dave's file folder. Okay. And I just wanted to make a point, and I made it here in red. And this has come up from a couple learners, is that the writing prompts that I give each week, they're not actually assignments. And they're meant to be more like an exercise, but that the learners will create their own, like, artifacts. Like, some of you who have been in, like Trinity, I know you've been in the co-design course.
Yeah.
And the co-design, to me, I'd never worked in, like, I supported a couple learners in that co-design course. And the whole thing with the co-design is you engage a bunch of different ideas, but then the learner actually creates something that demonstrates their understanding.
Yeah.
And so in the same way, like the assignments in this course, like you'll actually have a very high degree of say in what it is you do. Yeah, so I just want to make it clear that the writing prompts, they're not assignments, and you're encouraged to do them. I think you can actually develop some skill and technique by doing them. So I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, so the first thing I want to do today as a group is I want to look at some of the resources that were added to the page called Growing Resources. So we're inside the group wiki now, and there's a separate page called Growing Resources that feature imagery. Okay, so I want to share something today that I got permission from a learner, and I taught this young woman last year in Surrey. So she's from China, and she wrote well, it's an interesting assignment, but I just want to focus on this, and I just want to kind of point out that like the focus of the sharing here, and I know Olivia, she's going to share a passage from The Stranger, a very, very famous novel. And Peyton's going to share something that he found. And hopefully, Trinity, you have a resource that you're willing to share in this space.
Okay.
Like, have you found something you think would be suitable for a focus on imagery?
I think so. I was looking at stuff yesterday, and I think I found something that would work, but I'm not 100% sure, honestly.
Okay, well, perfect. Because one of the thinkings behind these big idea workshops is the learners are going to co-create the content. I mean, it's a pretty ambitious idea, but I think it's much more organic, and like as you know, even as we talk through some of these ideas, and I've taught creative writing in regular classrooms before and in English classes, and I usually go in fairly scripted with what I want to share. But what I think is kind of interesting about this is the material is actually getting developed as we move through it. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now.
I just wanted to let you know I'm here now. Sorry I'm so late. I woke up 6 this morning.
Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty early.
Okay. I'm just gonna keep my camera off if that's all right.
Oh, it's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so what we're at item number 3 in the agenda for today, and at some point, those of you who haven't had a chance to add things, I'm going to create a little time for that. In number 4, there will be a writing prompt, and I want to talk about the activation assignment a little bit, and that's about it.
Sorry, for the activation assignment, like the thing that I haven't done yet, that I'm just in the process of doing right now, do I like literally just hand it in, or do I have to like write something on it?
Okay, at this point, I don't think it's ready to like. The activation, okay, we can go through that a little bit later, but the activation assignment is basically going to be your piece of writing that you think demonstrates good writing. Now, for some reason, there's a piece of this missing, but it's okay. I might have another version of this, but we'll talk about the activation assignment a little bit.
Because I'm just like, yeah, I wasn't really sure what we're supposed to do for the activation assignment, kind of.
Okay, well, okay, just if you can hold that thought just for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where okay. Okay, now I just want to show you where to find the actual activation assignment. So I'm going to go back to Pages. Okay, so this is on the home page of the classroom, and it's in the introductory. So if you go down to below the group wiki, you'll see something called the introductory challenge, and this is where the assignment is sitting right now. And the part of the assignment, yeah, so there's going to be two pieces. One is adding a resource, which we're going to talk about today. And the other one is creating an original text that features imagery. Now, I would argue some of you have already submitted work that qualifies and could be submitted right now. But what I'd like to do is kind of work through some of the ideas, especially some of the ideas about concrete language, and then kind of keep that in mind as you revise your work. So once again, like the way to find this assignment, it's on the group page, and right now it's sitting in the artifact hand-in on the home page. I think there's also another way to find it, but I'm going to go through the group wiki. And okay, so can you see it sitting here as well? So under topic 1, it's sitting under activation assignment. So it's sitting in two different places. And the somewhat confusing part of this is, in order to see the agenda, you actually have to click on the agenda meeting notes, like right here. And I guess you can see it here as well. All right. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to do today is I want to share with you an excerpt from a piece of, it's a long poem actually. And so that's sitting right here. Okay, now can people get to this place? Because I'm just trying to think, it might not be that useful to screen share. But can people find this page, the growing resources with that feature imagery page? Because I'm just going to, I'll stop screen sharing right now. Because you can actually move through it on your own without having me have to pull you through it.
Yeah, I found it.
And then there's the piece by, the piece Olivia shared, and there's the piece way at the bottom that Peyton shared. So I'm just going to move this up so it's closer. Okay, and you can see that, okay, with this passage or this excerpt that I shared, there's some images down below. They're just labeled as drawings. And we can take a look at those in a minute. Okay, so okay, this piece of writing is something that came out of a study we did in the classroom using a verse novel, which is a novel written in poetry. And I'm not sure how many people have ever read a novel like that. So the novel we read in class was called The Crazy Man, and it's quite a good novel. And so what students did is they wrote kind of a story about their past. Most of them chose the story about themselves. And in this case, this young woman, Diana, she wrote about being a single child under China's one child policy. And both her parents worked very long hours. And at the age of 10, she actually ran away from home. She ran away. I mean, so she's in a city of almost 20 million people, and she runs away. And she actually tried to get a hotel room. And so it's quite an in-depth story. And she befriends this cat, which is kind of another part of her story. But what I wanted to feature or look at here was just her focus on imagery. And it's quite interesting, like especially with learners who are learning a second or third language. It was quite interesting seeing the impact of trying to get Diana to kind of use really specific, concrete images to kind of convey her experience. So I'm just going to read a little bit of it, and hopefully you can just kind of notice the effective use of images. Okay, it's called Walking Through the Darkness, and so the first piece is called The Empty Home. I opened the door, put a basket full of food on the shoe shelf, took off my school bag and threw it on the bed, then threw myself on it too. The sunset glowed through the open window, caressing the whole room with golden warm hands. Silence. It's impossible for them to come home before 11. No response. Silence again. I stood up, brought the basket to the kitchen. Behind the wall was my new neighbor, a kid with her parents, went to the same elementary school as me. Seemed like they were having a good time right now. The sound from the TV, the laughter from the family, louder and louder. I waited and waited until the silence filled up again. The golden warm had already turned cold, and the sound also slowly faded away. It was always like this, my home, full of furniture, clothes, and food, but so empty. And if you have a chance, if you can take a look at the photos or the images. So a friend of hers is quite a good artist, and she's going to illustrate this. I think there are 10 different poems, and her plan is to illustrate this. So I'm not sure if people want to comment or if there's anything else that maybe you picked out of it. Okay, well, that's fine. Now, I was wondering if Olivia, if you could kind of read, like that's a really, really, like I know that passage from the novel really well. And if you could just give a little background, like maybe how you became aware of the book or how you read it. Now, do you want to screen share or can everybody find it? It's right below the drawings that I put in. Okay. All right. So Olivia, can I get you to read that passage?
Okay. I waited. The heat was beginning to scorch my cheeks. Beads of sweat were gathering in my eyebrows. It was just the same sort of heat at my mother's funeral, and I had the same disagreeable sensations, especially in my forehead, where all the veins seemed to be bursting through the skin. I couldn't stand it any longer, and took another step forward. I knew it was a fool thing to do. I wouldn't get out of the sun by moving on a yard or so, but I took that step, just one step forward, and then the Arab drew his knife and held it up towards me, athwart the sunlight. A shaft of light shot up from the steel, and I felt as if, a long thin blade transfixed my forehead. At the same moment, all the sweat that had accumulated in my eyebrows splashed down on my eyelids, covering them with a warm film of moisture. Beneath a veil of brine, my eyes were blinded. I was conscious only of the symbols of the sun clashing on my skull, and less distinctly of the keen blade of light flashing up from the knife, scarring my eyelashes and gouging into my eyeballs. Then everything began to reel before my eyes. A fiery gust came from the sea, and while the sun cracked into, from the end to end, and a light sheet of flame poured down from the rift, every nerve of my body was steel and spring, and my grip closed on the revolver. The trigger gave, and I stopped it there because, well, I don't know, it just went on too long after.
Yeah.
And also, yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm kind of curious what, like in your mind, did this passage really stick with you, or?
Well, I thought it was a really good use of imagery because, well, he's obviously about to murder someone, but it gives you, like, it makes you feel like you have empathy with him almost, because you know the feeling of being in the sun, and he describes it in a really visceral way. So
I was so how long ago did you read that novel?
I think I read it in October.
Okay. Well, to me, that's really powerful. That piece of imagery stuck in your head for nearly 6 months. So, that to me is really powerful.
Yeah, I like that part.
Now, do other people have bits of novels in their head that they can just recall them quite easily?
I do. It's just it would take me a bit to find it.
Mm-hmm.
It's in a novel.
Okay, no, that's fine. Yeah, I think for me, there's passages from some of John Steinbeck's writing, which to me, like I grew up in California, and he has this ability to describe the landscape there that is just exceptional. So.
For my piece of writing that I like to do for imagery, I just like to send it in or reading it.
Okay, is that Trinity?
Yeah.
Okay, your mic is really soft.
Is that better?
It's a little bit. I think if you speak louder, who knows?
Okay. Hopefully you can hear me now. Is it okay if I send the piece of writing that I picked into the group with you or something instead of reading it out loud?
Oh, sure.
Okay, cool. Should I put it in the group with you or somewhere else?
Okay, can you figure out where to put it? On the page?
In the wiki or?
Yeah, well, okay, inside the group wiki, there's a page called Growing Resources.
Okay.
That's where you should put it.
Okay.
Okay, and hopefully we'll see it.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, and I think the last piece, now Peyton, you shared a link to an article.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so do you want to, can everybody find it? Because I just wondering maybe on this one, if you could screen share, Peyton, and just maybe guide us to maybe just point out the pieces that you want to talk about.
Sure, okay. Here we are.
Okay, perfect.
All throughout, I actually found it really interesting. Just, there's lots of uses of good imagery and writing here.
Okay. And how
In
did you?
reality, I don't have anything in particular to say about it.
Okay.
It was just something I found that fit in well.
Yeah, I agree. It's quite good. Um, now, is there anything that perhaps you can point to in your own writing that kind of embodies some of this? Like even like there's that point right below where it says, if you scroll down just a little bit, use the tiny but telling detail. And I think there, okay, now I did go in and I looked at people's, like you commented on the feedback you got from the other writers. And there was one detail I think that kind of surprised you that people really focused on.
Yeah.
Do you remember which one that was?
Which detail? Oh, that was the keypad.
Yeah. And yeah, to me, this is a good example of it's almost like it says so much because in order to hear that keypad, like the bolt of the lock withdraw, or to think you heard it, you had to be very kind of vigilant to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Like to me, I mean, so I think that's a really good example.
In that writing, the issue was actually that I hadn't heard it. What I was hearing was something, or at least, of course, I thought I heard someone coming up the stairs.
Okay, so you had, okay, that's right. I'm forgetting some of the, maybe I'm forgetting that aspect, but you did hear, you heard the keypad,
No, I didn't hear it.
but you thought you had?
No,
Oh,
that was the entire thing, was if I had heard it, I would have thought it was just my dad coming home.
oh, okay. So, okay. All right. So this is a good example of where you can actually kind of misread or misinterpret the writer's intention, but it still worked. Like to me, it gave me a heightened sense of how aware you were. Okay. Is there anything else you want to point out, or other readers?
Let's see. Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing this. It's not something I was aware of.
It's just examples, right? Gets your mind going.
Exactly.
I actually found this after I finished my piece, so.
All right. Well, that's cool. All right. So you can probably stop screen sharing here. And then, yeah, I'm going to screen share just for a bit, just to get us back on where we are in the agenda. Okay, let me get back in. All right, so is there anybody else who wants to share any other piece?
I do. I'm just finding it right now. It shouldn't take me long though.
Okay.
I put mine in the dog, the thing. The place you said that I should put this. I'm really tired today. I'm sorry. My brain is just like not working.
All right, so it's in this area, the growing resources?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'm just going to go to there. Oh, very interesting. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to edit this just to include your name in it. Okay, so would you like us to read it? And then you can, you want us to read it first and then have you comment on what it is you liked?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Now, so Trinity, would you like to just kind of lead us through this one or just kind of talk about what made it so striking for you?
Yeah, sure. Well, I feel like like for me, I find it really helpful to like picture what's happening in a book if like they kind of describe like the scenery or like the place that they are, or something of that nature, you know, kind of like, and I feel like in Harry Potter they do that a lot, like they describe in quite a lot of detail, like places especially, I've noticed, and I feel like that kind of helps with the, I guess, your ability to like picture what it's like. I don't know.
Well, I imagine we have other Harry Potter fans in the group. Would anybody else like to just kind of comment?
I think Harry Potter in general is pretty good with putting a lot of imagery in there.
Yeah.
Well, do you think that's kind of what partly made it so popular?
Well, you know, other than the fantastic world building, but, you know, maybe that's it, right? That's how they show off all that fantastic world building.
It's yeah. Well, my daughter's read Harry Potter and reread Harry Potter. So, all right. Okay, now I know Liv, you're working on something, but maybe in the meantime, no. Okay, I'm going to screen share again. No, I guess I'm still screen sharing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I want to go back into the file folder. I said that's where I'm going to kind of keep some of the lessons, so to speak. And last week I shared something. And I really appreciate a couple of people contacted me and said they were kind of confused by this notion of abstract and concrete language. And I suggested a writing prompt that encouraged you to try to use concrete language. but okay, so concrete actually means it's connected to something real that you can physically touch or sense. So in some ways, it's like an image. Like for example, okay, there's a list of abstract. By contrast, abstract is something that's a concept, it's an idea. It's something you can't really touch. Okay, like for example, education, health, wisdom, happiness, peace, freedom, all of those things, they're very abstract. Like happiness is an abstract concept. And so those are nouns, and then even adjectives that are, in a sense, they're nondescript. So sad or stupid or smart or silly. Whereas a concrete thing it's like they're almost every one of these is something you can touch, like a school, teacher, friend, mother, dog, jail, bully, etc. And then the adjectives are more precise, so sharp, salty, bitter. Okay, so in this one, the suggestion was to try to write something that is concrete with language. Okay, and I'm not sure, unless somebody put it in their wiki, I don't know if anybody actually did this writing prompt, which is fine. Well,
I did. I thought it was mandatory, so
okay.
there you go.
Okay, now did you put it in your private wiki?
I think so. Yeah. It's not fantastic. I couldn't come up with anything interesting to write about, so I basically just wrote a short scene about one of my hobbies, which is archery.
Okay. Would you be willing to share it right now? Because I'll stop screen sharing.
Yeah, sure. Just give me a minute to try to find it.
Okay.
Hey Dave, so
Yeah.
I can't find a specific piece of mine that is ready to share yet, but I found some song lyrics I would share, or I could share.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So, did you send me the note there in the chat box?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that would be perfect. So, yeah, that'd be excellent, actually.
Okay, do you want me to put it into the group wiki now? And
Yes. Could you?
uh-huh.
So, Pete, when you're ready, you can go ahead and start sharing.
All right, I've got it.
Perfect. Okay, this is quite good. All right, so would you mind reading it?
All right, sure. Whack. The sharp tip of the arrow pierces the target just outside of the center. I reach down to my side and grab another. I clip the plastic nock to the string of my bow, focusing my eyes on the target again. I draw the string back, hold for a moment, and release. Thwack! This one hits in the yellow. Not a bullseye, but close. I smile for a moment, then grab my last arrow. Focus, draw back, hold, release. Thunk. That one hit the wooden backstop. I mutter under my breath and place my bow down and go pull my arrows out. After some effort, I manage to get it out and look over the damage. It seems fine, so I return to the firing line again. I pick up my bow. Focus, draw back, hold, and release.
Okay, excellent. I wonder if anybody would like to comment on it in terms of just like an image that, like the concrete aspect of this writing. Because, yeah, I don't want to do all the talking here.
Okay, I just put it into the group wiki.
Okay, that's perfect.
I thought that it was really good actually because I couldn't for the life of me write anything that was like concrete. I guess I found it really really difficult.
Yes.
So yeah, I thought that was good. Sorry, I don't know really what to say. I'm terrible at giving feedback, but
Okay, well, okay, this is good practice. Okay, so can you identify one concrete image or item that just kind of made this seem really believable?
yeah. Well, I thought that like kind of sorry, my brain is like dead today. I can't. Like the image of hitting like the wood behind the target and like having to do that because I've done archery before as well. And, yeah.
Okay, well, that's
Yeah,
perfect.
I thought that was a good.
Yeah, I mean, so like I think that your use of the word thwack, I don't think I've ever seen that word in print.
Yeah.
It was weird for me to say it out loud.
But where it thunk. Okay, I think that's it's a really clever use of that automatopoeia, and it's
The what?
it's a term when the word actually the word and the sound are the same thing, like meow, for
I
example.
feel like I've heard of that idea. I've just never heard that particular term.
Yeah, so what's really cool is you invented a word or a sound to indicate that the arrow went off target, and they're all really good verbs. Yeah, so this is a really good example of concrete language. You never get abstract here. Like there's nothing about this that is abstract. It's just really, really kind of that's on target, whatever you want to say.
On target.
Yeah. No, no. This is a good example. I mean, you can't sustain this kind of focus indefinitely. I mean, but it has a real purpose for kind of centering the piece of writing, like in a real place, which is partly what one of the aspects of imagery is to give the reader a sense of where you are. Okay, if you could stop screen sharing, that'd be great.
All right. There we are.
And I think Liv has got something she can share.
Yeah.
So
It's the lyrics to a Beatles song.
Okay, can you screen share just to kind of point us where you are?
Yeah. Personally, I really like the lyrics to this song because oh, where did I go? Oh, I exited the. Where am I?
Okay, this is what you need to do. Okay, scroll up. Keep going.
Pages.
Yeah, no. Just keep going. Just click on pages. Yeah. And this kind of recenters you, and then go through the group wiki.
Okay.
And then you'll find that topic 1. And it should be resources that growing resources that feature imagery. It's on the left. Yeah, this is not the easiest to navigate.
No.
Okay, so I think yours might have gone to the bottom of the page.
It maybe went to somewhere entirely different because I could just go to Wikipedia where I was before.
Okay, I'm really curious. Did you put this in your personal wiki, maybe?
I don't think I did, but you never know. Oh, there it is.
All right.
Okay. So, in particular, I really like uh, this verse,
Mm-hmm.
just because like visually,
Yes.
it's kind of it brings up a lot of ideas because it's saying that she's wearing like this face by the like this particular face, and it's like, well, who's it for though? Because she's alone, and so it's kind of like asking this question.
Yeah, I know this song very well. Okay, and do you want to comment on the next major lyric, the Father Mackenzie?
Uh, Not particularly.
Okay.
I don't know. There's something about this song that I've always really liked. It might be that I'm a musician because I actually know this song on violin. I play it often.
Okay, cool.
But I really, um, I don't even know what it is about it, but it just, the lyrics or something about it, I really like the feeling of, like, because it definitely has like a feeling of some
Mhm.
kind. Um,
Well, to me, like the image there of darning his socks in the night,
mhm.
that to me is such a sad image.
Yeah,
I mean, the fact that I don't know, I think maybe in those days when you darn socks, it means repairing the sock,
yeah,
and usually that was something maybe your partner would do.
yeah.
So that's a very good example.
Yeah. In general, I just love Beatles lyrics because they're so, like the imagery is pretty incredible.
Yeah. Well, even okay, I like like the last set of lyrics where she dies, but the two of them are together in the same stanza, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you. It'd be interesting to figure out exactly where you put it.
Yeah. I'm thinking
Um,
maybe, because I think I put it in the right spot, but maybe I just didn't save it.
you really don't have to save. Um,
Oh, well, that's interesting.
so, so,
I suppose
so
I'll find it at some point.
can you just copy these lyrics again?
Yeah.
Okay. If you can stay on screen share, it'd be nice to see for everyone else to see how this works.
Okay.
Yeah, you can just probably copy and paste the whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I copied it. So on this page.
Yeah, and then then go to add content block and be on page, yeah. And you can just maybe type in the name of the song.
Okay.
Or maybe, yeah, maybe, okay, you do have to say.
Or if I put it into here, then I could title it like song lyrics with
That's right.
imagery or something like that.
That's right. Perfect. So remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess maybe you didn't hit save.
I think that's probably what happened. Yep, now it's there.
Okay, perfect. All right, so you can stop screen sharing now. Okay, this is a good point to take a break. So I think, so do people want to let's take about a 10-minute break and come back at 3:10.
Okay.
Sound good?
All right.
Okay. Yeah. I can. Maybe forgetting. Okay, I need to stop recording. It should, yeah, it
says-
should be.
The group challenge submission, it says.
Does it say group or
It says, the bottom one says group challenge submission. The upper one says introductory challenge.
okay, the submission, that's where you actually put it. So, like, it's funny, I can't actually see what you see. But Peyton, could you actually screen share so I could actually see what you see? And I'll tell you if it's the right thing. Yeah, so if you click on introductory challenge, you should see the assignment. Oh, interesting. Okay, you can actually hand in your work. Okay, this is where you should hand it in. Okay, so, and if you close this one out and go to the group one, this is
So would we be writing something as a group then, or?
well, you know what? At this point, I don't think so. I might have to ask somebody, but if you can, you know, I have a feeling that an individual and group artifact submission space has been included in each of the topics. Yeah, so for this one, well, yeah, so I think you should put it in the first one. Yeah, yeah.
Sure. Should I stop screen sharing?
Sure. Okay, now there's one other item I wanted to kind of talk about. And as far as evaluating your work, okay, so it's in the item number 6. Okay, and the last thing is like to co-create a rubric for evaluating the activation assignment. Okay, I'm going to screen share for a minute just to show you what a rubric looks like. No, that's not it. Okay, so okay, this is a fairly generic rubric. Can everybody see it? And it's got a 5-point scale, and different scales. Like there are 4-point scales or 6-point scales, and the idea is that it's moving to more kind of polished work. So I think the idea of having work that's less developed and then more developed, that's kind of what the numbers refer to. But then on the other side, we need to kind of look at what it is that should be measured or evaluated in this case. And for some of these, like organization, so ideas and content, organization, voice, word choice, sentence fluency, conventions just refers to standard spelling, things like that. Now, I'm not saying we should use this one. Like, I don't think it's actually suitable. But what I'd like to do is get a sense of what people actually want to have kind of measured in terms of this first piece of work. Okay, so I'm just going to stop screen sharing for a minute. Now, the other thing I'm just kind of curious about is, like, to what extent you've had experience in the past kind of establishing the criteria for an assignment.
For one of my other courses, I had to make a rubric, but honestly, I found it kind of confusing, and I didn't actually end up using it all that much. So I don't know.
Okay. So what do you think, Peyton?
Yeah, I've never actually had to make the very system by which I grade myself.
Okay.
So I wouldn't know where to start.
Okay, because you brought up a really good point, because there should be typically they call it self-assessment. Like if you understand the criteria, then you should be able to look at your own work and say where it meets it and where it doesn't meet it.
Yeah, but I thought that was the whole point, is we're creating the criteria.
That's right. Yeah, so I'm just curious with Olivia, do you have much experience doing this?
Yeah, me and someone else I know created a rubric, but we found it kind of difficult for gauging something like creativity, or because it's all kind of up to the person.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that too. I think that that's definitely an issue when it comes to self-assessment.
Okay. Okay, I agree that creativity is pretty hard to evaluate. I guess, okay, what's interesting with this is you should be able to evaluate things that are objective, that you can actually measure. Subjective things are harder to measure. So I'm just curious with Olivia Catlin. So what's your experience in doing this?
I have none. I've never made a rubric for myself or marked myself.
Okay.
On anything.
All right. No, I'm just thinking, I'm trying to figure out the most efficient way to do this. And I'm just thinking, okay, with the piece of writing that is going to be your first artifact, is it fair that uses concrete language? You think do we have enough understanding of what that means now?
Well, I don't necessarily know that the thing I wrote uses concrete language all the time.
Okay.
Well, that's what I was just thinking when you said that, because that was the second writing prompt, which I think I was the only one who did.
Mm-hmm.
So in our first one, which, if I'm not mistaken, is our introductory assignment, we might not have been writing with that in mind so much as we were with imagery.
Okay, so how about if we have a criteria that says uses imagery that appeals to the senses? Visual, auditory, touch, all that.
I could get behind that.
You can get behind that?
Sure.
Okay.
Everyone else is free to pipe up, but
okay.
I'm not muted right now, so I'm just...
Yeah, I think all those things are kind of important in writing, or at least in my opinion, they are.
Okay. So so I think we can agree that a criteria that is based on uses imagery that appeals to the senses. How about okay, so far, like with your writing as a group, the conventions of writing are not an issue with this group at all, like punctuation, spelling, all that kind of stuff. I mean, we can count it. I mean, typically you use terminology like observes conventions of language. Just, and And in something like this, because you're also good at it, like the marks would be, full marks, whatever you want to call it. Are people comfortable with that?
Yeah.
So, was that a yes, Trinity?
Yeah.
Okay. And how about Liv?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. All right. Now, is there anything we can say about the actual form that the piece of writing takes?
Yeah, I was actually wondering for a piece like if I'm just submitting like one chapter, I don't want people to be super confused about like what's going on in the story because for what I'm writing in particular, I find it's something that people need context when they're reading it.
Okay.
Something that they can just read and not be confused by. So like would we be maybe putting that on the criteria, like that it's like understandable or that we include like I can't find what the word is. Do you know what I mean though? Like
Okay, well, there is one criteria here from the other one about ideas and content, in that it simply communicates clearly.
yeah, well, and like I think I was looking for the word like context because I find sometimes reading pieces it helps to have like context or a little like know a little bit about the characters or whatever is going on.
Okay, so I'm looking here. I'm going to screen share just one more time because I think we might be able to use this criteria. Okay, so the one for ideas and content, is it? Okay, so the thing with, okay, so we're focusing on imagery, but if you simply wrote images that didn't convey any meaning, it might, like imagery, you might be full of images, but it wouldn't actually communicate or seem to have a purpose. So I'm just trying to figure out, like with some criteria that just acknowledges that there's actually kind of a sense of purpose in the writing. Can somebody take a stab at trying to kind of put that in words?
I think maybe like that the writing has like a purpose or conveys meaning in some way.
Oh, okay, that's beautiful. Okay, I just caught it. Okay, how about writing conveys meaning and has purpose? I'm going to stop screen sharing. So we'd have three criteria. One is uses imagery that appeals to the senses, observes conventions of language, and writing conveys meaning and has purpose. Or just, why don't we just say it conveys meaning?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, I saw somebody here in the chat box. Okay, so here's the criteria.
Sorry, just apparently Trinity can't hear anything.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Can Trinity try kind of dropping out and rejoining?
That works sometimes, but if she checks like the headphone jack maybe, because I know sometimes that can be kind of one of those things that makes it weird.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, yeah, that seemed to work.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry about that.
Sorry. Okay, so I think we have our criteria now. And I'll just use a 5-point scale. So 5 out of 5 is like a high mark. So people are good with those criteria? You're good?
I thought they were pretty good.
All right. Okay, so the last thing, we've got about 25 minutes left. Now, I want to go back to all right, I'm going to screen share one more time to let you know where I am. Okay, so in the group wiki, okay, the first thing that pops up for me is something called Dave's file folder. Okay, I included some things in here. And one of the ideas, and the exercise we're going to work on later connects to this idea, and a lot of people refer to it as place, like in any kind of writing, and it's pretty consistent with what we've been talking about with, concrete language, imagery, and the like. And I was in a workshop. I'm just going to open this up. I was in a workshop, I guess, almost 6 years ago. And this came out of the workshop, and it was a bunch of teachers, and we were writing about Surrey, which is where we lived. And most of us lived and worked in it. And I don't want to go through too many of these. I want to show you one in particular, though. But the whole purpose of the workshop was to center people with kind of specific details. Okay, and this is the one I want to look at. And to me, I really love this poem because it's really physical. Okay, you just have to be here. So Delta to the west, Fraser River to the north, White Rock to the south, Langley to the east. Stay here, play everywhere. Who wouldn't want to call this home? With fresh eyes, I joined the wise. Surrey is the future. Surrey is my future. And to me, like this physically locates Surrey. Now, how many of you live in the Lower Mainland? Or does anybody live in the Lower Mainland?
My uncle lives in Surrey.
Okay. All right. So I know at least one. Now, Liv, do you live in Port Alberni? That's yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you were to physically locate Port Alberni north, like west, east, south, like what would be your markers?
Probably the mountain.
Okay.
And Tofino.
Tofino, is Tofino to the north of you or west?
It's the west, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, the west coast. And probably the river, because we have like an inlet.
Okay, now is it the Stave River?
I actually not sure what it's called. I think it's just called the Alberni Inlet.
Okay, I know the inlet. Let's see, what what I think is really interesting about this is when you start to describe where you live, like what's north of you, what's west of you. Now Surrey, because it's kind of locked in, it's especially by the river.
Yeah.
So at your leisure, you're welcome. There's a piece of prose in here as well, but there's some really, really good things like this poem here, Surrey, that shadowy place, where you should go, a stretch of land that encompasses diverse pockets of people, a high city, literally higher than Richmond, home of high condos and high people high on themselves, and then it talks about King George, like King George Highway. Now it's called King George Boulevard. But what's so nice about these poems is that they actually physically locate in place. And so I really invite you to look at these poems on your own. And so, okay, going back, okay, I just want to kind of leave it, okay, so, okay, I get lost in this too. Okay, so writing prompts. I'm not sure how many people have ever done these kind of writing exercises before. I made 2 copies of it. Here's one. There's one here and then one below it, which is for you to work within.
Yeah, I've done those before, but I haven't read them beforehand. I've gotten a friend to just like fill in words for me.
Oh, okay.
So they'll tell me the kind of word, and then I'll like give them a word to fill in.
Okay, so the interesting thing about this exercise is if you look at the kind of template, it for the most part, it actually forces you to use specific things. So I am from a specific ordinary item, a product name. Now, so if you look at all these different things, they're almost entire, like family tradition, I think is an abstract thing. Family trait, I guess, is another one. But the idea with this kind of exercise is it really tries to locate the person in certain things, which to me connect again to this notion of concrete. Now, I just want to point out, I just want to show you this example right here. Okay, so I think I've mentioned to you that I was teaching ESL, English, now they call it English Language Learner. So I was teaching when I was in Surrey, I was teaching students, a lot of them from China, a lot of students from India, Pakistan. In the last couple of years, a number of students from Syria. And what was really interesting with working with learners who had limited language is just how much they were able to kind of connect to this kind of more direct use of language. And I had a peer tutor in the group in one of the classes, and so she wrote this poem. And to me, when I look at it, it just gives me a sense of who she is. So you can just kind of take a look at it yourself. So this is what I'd like to do. If you go into this, okay, so I'm thinking you should be able to do the same thing I'm going to do right now. If I click on this gear wheel, I can click on edit. Now I want to edit the content. And what I'd like you to do is copy and paste this right here. Whoops. I'd like you to copy and paste this and then pop it into your personal wiki and create a new content block. Now, okay, I'm going to stop sharing here. But was everybody able to find that block of text?
Not yet. I clicked on topic 1.
It's in it's in topic 1 on right in the writing prompts page.
Okay.
So Peyton, were you able to find that text?
Yeah, I've already got it.
Okay, how about Olivia C?
I got it.
Good. So were you able to put it into your personal wiki? Like
Not yet. I'm still doing it.
okay. Yeah, so just create a new content block.
Should I share screen? I can't find it somehow.
Okay, sure. All right, so go into the group wiki on the right.
Oh, it's in the group wiki. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was somewhere else.
All right, so and go to topic 1 and hit the down arrow on the left. Okay. And then click on writing prompts. The writing prompts for topic 1. It's on your, can you go to your left? Okay, just right where the page, you have writing prompts. Click on that. Okay, now what you have to do here is you have to hit the gear wheel where it says writing prompt 3. There you go. And then click on edit, edit, and then edit content. And I suggest you kind of scroll down. Yeah, make a, you can, yeah, go ahead, try that. Make a copy. Okay. Okay, I think what it's, okay, it just created a copy of this Google Doc. You can actually just you can just copy, you can click Control A.
Okay.
Or you can, okay, why don't you just copy the first bit of, the first set here?
Should I just copy this whole thing and then
You
paste
could.
it?
There you go.
Okay. I really need to buy a mouse one day. It's really annoying.
Okay, so yeah, you can copy that.
Okay. So then,
And then just go ahead and save this one. But then what you need to do, you need to kind of, if you can go to the top, okay, and hit pages. And now you need to go into your personal wiki space.
okay.
And then go to my site. And then add.
Copy and paste it into content block?
Yeah, just create a new content block. Like add a new content block. And you can just call it, and just dump it in. And you can just call it where I'm from. Okay, so within this, so the thinking is that your writing is done inside of the your private wiki space. Okay, now I know we have about 10 minutes, so ideally I'd like people to work. So Trinity, did you manage to get that into your private wiki?
I'm just doing that right now. think I figured out how to do it.
Yeah,
Can I just like copy paste it? Will that work or
oh
no?
yeah, you can copy paste it.
Okay. Cool.
So like I say, this is an exercise. And sometimes exercises work, sometimes they don't. But in the next 10 minutes, just try to take a stab at it.
There's a certain prompts that I'm having trouble coming up with things to put down. Like a product name, like I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with that.
You know, you can just ignore it.
Okay, so just use the ones that I want, really?
Yeah, use the ones that you can actually relate to.
Okay.
And we've only got a few minutes left here. But does anybody want to share like maybe a particular line that maybe surprised them?
I kind of like it all together.
Okay. Well, can we leave it that maybe people will work on this, and perhaps we can share it at the start of the in next week's session?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, it's, you know, it's interesting. Like I say, I've done this with learners with very limited English, and I'm just always been amazed by how much you learn about them from this activity. All right, now what I will do is I'll send everybody an email just kind of making it more, perhaps more explicit what needs to get uploaded for that activation assignment. I think you're all there. And maybe I'll just put in a little bit more, like on the piece that you shared. Like I might leave it more open for people to go through the resources that have been added that have imagery, and maybe just comment. It doesn't even have to be your own piece. Like maybe you can just comment on how effective imagery is. Like for example, I have read the Harry Potter books, but when Trinity shared that section from Harry Potter, to me it's like, wow, I'm reading Harry Potter for the first time. And I thought that was such a good piece that that Trinity shared. So maybe I'll put in some instructions for maybe possibilities for how people can comment on imagery, because in it, like this is the creative writing version of English 11, but in a regular English 11 class, we would be commenting on literature on some level. So it's nice to just get some practice doing that. And I really appreciate all of your patience with my screen sharing, or lack of, you know, kind of, well, I fumble around in it quite a bit. But hopefully this Power School shell is becoming a little bit more understandable.
Yeah.
And to me, the big thing is making sure I know where I am. So I always go back to that. I always go back to the starting page, and then I go back into the group wiki, and then I can figure things out from there. All right. If anybody has any questions, I'll hang around for a little while. If you want to just stay and ask me a question directly. But thanks for coming and sharing and being willing to talk about your writing and things like that.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thanks.
Okay.
See you
Thank
guys
you.
next week.
See you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.